Okay, good evening. At 6:05, I will call to order the Columbia Borough Planning Commission workshop for the evening of December 17th. I would note that the agenda for this meeting was posted as required on the borough site. And also, please be advised, in addition to this meeting being live streamed, there is also an audio recording being done of this meeting. Could I have a roll call, please? Should I do that on my own if we're not going to have staff here for now?
No,
Okay,
because they will be
all right.
Chairperson Mary Wickenheiser,
Present.
Vice Chairperson Tiffany Lynn, Brad Lynn, Justin Evans,
Here.
Marilyn Press Hartman,
Here.
Nathan Roach.
Okay, thank you. Since we do not have a quorum, I will defer the minutes for approval of our November 19th meeting. We do not have a quorum, but since this is a workshop and there will be no actions taken, we can move forward with this meeting this evening, is my understanding. So to follow up from our meeting last month, we were looking at the proposed zoning map and changes combining different zoning districts. And what we kind of honed in on last month was the downtown mixed use. And this would combine downtown commercial, riverfront commercial, medium density residential business, neighborhood commercial zoning, and also the highway commercial zoning northwest of Shawnee Run. So one of our tasks that we were looking at was to take the table of permitted uses and come back this month with thoughts on those, that there seems to be within those districts not too much discrepancy as to the different uses. I kind of went down, highlighted the table, and like on page 1, which is 220 attachment 2.1. The only difference there between the districts has to do with apartments, which are not permitted in the neighborhood commercial, but are permitted in the downtown commercial. And if you look at the note on that, it says P2 for the downtown commercial, and that has to do, if I remember correctly, I'm heading back here. That has to do with, they can be a permitted, if there is a permitted principal commercial use on the first floor. That's the way they are permitted in the downtown commercial. So the thing is, moving forward, going down through this list, are there some of these things that we make special exceptions instead of permitted uses? Did you have a chance, did either of you have a chance to go down through these? And what jumped out at either of you on these?
So it depends whether you're in like in the residential district table or the non-residential district table. You're right. So the apartments being the one where there's downtown and neighborhood. Specifically, what it's saying is they're not allowed in the neighborhood commercial. But
Not
they're
allowed neighborhood.
downtown MDRB, which are what we're looking at combining into
Right.
the downtown mixed use. So otherwise, you start looking into some of the non-residential ones, and and there are some differences, but you have to make a decision whether it makes sense to just make them all one, say like the communication antenna.
Right,
So that's a pretty practical thing where, they're permitted, except you have to go through a special exception process downtown, not in neighborhood, not in MDRB.
but in downtown.
Yeah, but in downtown. So, that's a question whether the borough still wants the zoning hearing board to have that extra opportunity to weigh in on that downtown.
But then,
Or if it
then,
makes, or if it's just better to make it
Yeah.
uniform.
and you get down there further on that page, construction company or tradesperson's headquarters, where you have the same
Yep.
under DC, permitted if it's on the first floor, but then it's not allowed medium density residential. And then it's a special exception in the riverfront commercial. So these are some of the things that if we want to combine, we need to take a look at what we really want to see
Yeah.
in some of these districts. Like you come down here even to highway commercial. Well, a kennel is a special exception,
Mhm.
but it's not permitted in any of the others that we're looking at combining into that.
Right.
So is it basically a majority rules that if whatever the use is in the majority,
Yeah, like
Would
what
be what?
properties, so, I mean, think about it this way,
Mhm.
because I think if we were looking at it right, it was some or most of the highway commercial the lots that are currently zoned highway commercial, most of those were on the future land use map as being in that downtown mixed use. And then
Right.
there was one other area that was not. So I guess if you looked at it like which of those lots that are highway commercial, I mean, by changing that to they're not permitted in that district, I guess you could look at how many lots are affected. And it's like, well, they're, along Lancaster Avenue or something. It's like, who's going to have a kennel there? So it's not really going to put anybody out
And-
to change it.
and I
That sort of
think
thing.
I think the other thing you have to look at is where these are allowed elsewhere.
Right.
If you eliminate a use, just taking kennel, there's
Yeah.
still a special exception in light business, light
Conservation,
conservation, light industrial, and general industrial,
yep, which seems fair,
which
right?
seems fair. Do some of these things belong elsewhere?
Right, right. So
Just
you could
like
probably
with
get
the-
rid of that.
Just
in
like
highway
with the
commercial.
construction company, they're still permitted in highway, commercial, light, and general industrial. So, my understanding is we have to allow somewhere for uses.
Sure,
We can't just totally eliminate uses. Just like up there, campground, it's a special exception in a highway commercial, but not permitted elsewhere. It's a special exception in light business and conservation, recreation. So, is this where we go next to try and decide what we want to keep where?
So you want to restrict it to one specific area
Not,
and not give them options in
well,
case it comes up?
the thing is, the next thing to look at, the other on this future land use is industrial, combining light business, light industrial, and general industrial.
Mhm.
So then you would, like with the kennels, you would be combining them into that industrial zone, if that's what you wanted to do. I'm just throwing that out as
Yeah,
an
exactly.
example here. I'm not saying that that's what's to be done, but to look at, some other things that we might be doing here.
yeah, so if you look at like the existing highway commercial is pretty much along Lancaster Avenue, up to about, that says Bethel, the park,
Yeah.
And
up to
then-
Jansen's.
out along Route 30.
Mhm.
So what would get merged of the highway commercial is from downtown, the part that's between downtown and Shawnee Run. So it's not even the part where there's, most of the bigger properties are at. So you could make kennels not permitted in the downtown mixed use.
Mhm.
That's an easy one to merge, unless there's some existing kennels down there or something.
Well, I don't think changing that right now would force anybody out. It's just not going to allow anybody to.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
Yep.
is, making zoning changes. It's not like the other night, there were people here at the meeting that were concerned over the changes to the McGinnis outline. And they were concerned because their properties now fell in that conservation.
Mm.
And they were afraid they
Gotcha.
were going to get kicked out of their homes. And no, that's not what happens, You still, any change to sell that property, you would have some issues, but for the existing use and residents, I don't think, it doesn't affect them.
Right. Still different.
It'd be a non-conforming, right?
It doesn't affect them when they decide to sell the property?
To my understanding, it wouldn't. It may if they wanted to, say, put another building on their property or another living quarters or something like that. But they could sell it as a residence and keep it the same as it is.
Mhm.
When they're going to try to change uses that we're going to run into some issues.
Mhm.
Yeah. So according to the map, if you're kind of starting from the future land use map, it combines, I think we figured this out, it's going to combine DC, NC, MDRB,
Mhm.
some of the highway, the part that's out to Shawnee Run of the
Right.
highway commercial,
Right.
and then riverfront.
Right. And that's what's showing.
Yeah.
That's what's showing in this reddish on the
Yeah,
land
it's
use
like
map.
sand.
Conservation is the first there, and then the next one will be the downtown mixed use, which is what we're looking
Yep.
at, the combination of all of these.
Exactly. So, I think, are these tables like in a spreadsheet or something somewhere? Like you could, no, they're just in,
Two separate tables, has attachments.
Mhm.
gotcha. Like you can't export them as a table? Because you can't.
I have personally not.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about, but like exactly what it's based on. If we could do that, then we could kind of move the columns over and start to line them up better versus what's in here.
Mhm.
Because then you can look at it a little easier as where the decision points
Right.
need to be made.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if that's something you could do and then email it.
We can work on that. So it's
Yeah.
those four districts that you're looking at.
Right.
Yeah, we want to, what you're trying to do is, okay, if you're saying, let's simplify it, make those districts into one, where are the inconsistencies that you're going to create and what's
Mhm.
allowed? And you don't want to create problems, or too many problems. You have to pick and choose where you want to give and where you want to take. That's the big thing. I think geographically, for the most part, we're all pretty happy with
Right.
how
I
this
think we
pans
are.
out.
Right.
And it cuts down, it takes about 6 or 7, no more than that, 7 or 8 zoning districts out of the mix.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the areas are pretty well set out. It's,
Right. It's how this is laid out.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
and trying to catch the differences there.
exactly. Yeah. And then what, light business, which
And
is the
then-
industrial, or the McGinnis part, correct? Or no, that's, light
Yeah,
business, and then LI and GI
right.
are generally combined on the map too. So that,
Steve, do you have a copy of what we're kind of working from here? Does he have a copy of this?
Probably not.
The text portion of it. I've been following it, but you might have
This is
something that's a little bit.
This
Oh,
is
no,
what
I've
we,
never seen this.
okay, so this is what we've been working with here, is to, we looked at doing this first.
Okay.
And then the conversation we had about
Yes.
the McGinnis property, I saw that we were looking at this,
So,
to combine those industrial properties with like business. And the only like business is the McGinnis property.
so, but what would you be putting in like business? Now, I understand.
We'd be looking at the same
So you'd
thing.
be looking at the same
Right.
thing, so you'd be looking at like business,
Yeah.
okay. So if I could sway you to doing that first.
what's that?
To do in the industrial consolidation
Because
first.
that's going to be the request that Derek's going to speak to comes tonight, okay? And it's also, so if I can elaborate a little bit on it.
Okay.
I'll let Derek, he's probably much better at it, and I asked him to speak to this. But they're looking at having whatever necessary text amendments that we need done for McGinnis to be done.
Okay.
To work on that and take that on as a project. So that's what Derek and I are going to request of you.
Mhm.
With that being said, we know we're eventually going to work from 17 down to 7.
Yep.
At least that's what our plan is.
That's the
Right.
goal, yeah, that's the goal, yeah,
Right.
right.
So if we are going to combine something now, it only makes sense that it only makes sense that we combine those things now instead of doing McGinnis and trying to combine it later. Is what we were thinking of.
As long as combining it doesn't. Okay, yeah, well, it sounds like there's specific things that are going to be recommended to change light business for the McGinnis airfield or the
That is
McGinnis
correct.
Park.
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Okay,
So I think what Derek is going to try to articulate a little bit better than I'm doing right now is to have planning commission ask council for the direction to take us in this direction. So what we want to do is, we do not want to spend an awful lot of work getting through this and then kind of surprise council with, oh, here's what we've done.
Yeah.
And that's not what they were looking for. So we want to make sure that we have a good, open conversation as to what that is. I think Derek is going to ask you to provide a letter of this is what we're looking for to council to vote on, and council then will vote on it, and if they're okay with it, now we're all on the same page.
so he's already drafted the recommended
I,
changes.
I don't know at what point he's at, but that's why I asked
That's what
him
he's
to
working
come today. And I
Okay.
think he could articulate a little bit better what the needs are for McGinnis. But it didn't make much sense to do McGinnis now and then try to add into our. zone
True.
Mhm.
Later.
True, but I mean, think of it this way, right? Like, that sounds like that's a key initiative,
Right.
a key legislative
As
initiative of
opposed to
council,
this.
right? So that's gonna be there, and then there's still the short-term rental stuff, which is probably gonna come back after there's feedback from council.
That is correct.
So that's probably their next priority in regard to legislation with us. And then third is this, and this is a bigger project too. So the only thing you want to avoid is saying, well, let's combine those when it may take longer to do
Mhm.
that. Because council will want to adopt a new map with the new districts. So it's going to take a while to go through this. So my guess is Derek's going to need the McGinnis changes to take place in the next few months.
Yeah, you might be absolutely
Yeah.
correct on that. Because we are looking at stage 1 for McGinnis to start April.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, you're going to need it quick.
So we're looking at April now.
Yep.
Mhm.
Council ultimately will decide what our, I'll call it the jumping off point, when we sell it or decide to go into the next stages or all this. So we don't really know what that timeline will be. but we should be prepared that way they can make that decision anytime that they want.
Makes sense.
That's,
Mhm.
that's kind of what I'm looking at.
So that we kind of put this downtown mixed-use consolidation in back of us for now.
That's, I mean,
And
that,
probably jump onto this industrial consolidation.
that would be my recommendation, because it seems to be the high priority, obviously, from those dollars that are involved.
Right,
Or
right.
those kind of things. So I don't want to necessarily, lead you in what to do at this point, but
Yeah, but you're kind of here between us and council.
so.
So,
I think this is
Yeah.
the direction that has been requested from all the parties involved in McKinnis at this
Mhm.
point. Now, not necessarily all council, but it's, this is something I think we need
Right.
to direct ourselves.
this is more the priority right now.
I think that was a concern from the beginning
Mhm.
when, I think you scared us, Mary, asking for the map, and it was kind of like, oh my gosh, are we jumping into this now as far as all the rezoning and all the mapping? I was like, wow, this is gonna be in-depth,
Hmm,
It's going to take a while.
yes.
yeah,
I mean, this is part of trying to implement the comprehensive plan,
correct.
so it's, meant to be a bigger project to try to align it with that.
I mean, I have another suggestion, just make the whole town non-conforming.
I'm sure he'll love that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wild West, huh? Yeah, yeah,
You won't have any yelling and screaming.
no. Hey, Alex,
We're gonna have to take a,
thank you for the dimensional requirements for that. And I think if we're going to jump ahead to this industrial consolidation, if that seems the direction to go,
Yep.
we'll probably need those dimensional, well, they are in here. They were part of this, weren't they?
Yep.
Yeah,
They're in that
They're in
same
there.
table.
they're in that same table,
Yeah, attachment 2.
yeah. Okay.
Okay, that's,
Do you want to make a copy of this for yourself?
I
Like
would.
we've been working from.
I would appreciate
This
that.
was,
So
this was based on the future land use map.
Paula says she has a copy.
Oh, she has a
can-
copy, okay. Okay,
you're about the only one.
Everybody has it? Okay.
yeah, and I think Jess kind of put that together, as part of the comp plan to go with
Yeah.
this. When we first started discussing, these new zoning districts. So we'll kind of,
Well, you'll have to wrestle with the adult use thing once we get into industrial, because that's where it's segregated to. So if
Yeah.
you make the area bigger, you have to get creative with the standards, I guess.
well, that,
So that's why we can't get rid of Heartlands, because it's pre-existing.
Yep.
So that's why, just because we make it a conservation district, they still can sell their house. So
Yeah.
Otherwise, we tried that a lot of years ago.
oh, yeah,
Yeah. So,
I was here for that.
I mean, what I'm saying is it's allowed in one of the industrial districts.
Right.
In the general only. So if you combine light business, light industrial and general,
all right.
it's going to be no, except for what?
No.
Like you have to create some sort of, I think in the zoning ordinance, there already are some restrictive dimensional things, it has to be certain distance.
Sure.
Certain
Sure.
distance from
Something.
different things.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that if you combine them all and it's only allowed where you meet those criteria, it's going to include McGinnis too.
That's like with
Sure.
your short-term rentals.
Yeah.
Right now, they're restricted to NDRB. But within that ordinance, there are other
Yeah. So
restrictions.
if that gets passed.
So that if this if we were to combine these, those other restrictions within the ordinance would have to be met
Yeah.
also, which single, standalone,
And then the other area that I can't quite grapple with on how we're going to achieve what we want the lot across the street from, I'm gonna call it Colonial Metals, because that's what I know it as.
Oh.
Because if the lot across the street is made to where you cannot put residential buildings there, that might really hurt what you're gonna wanna do or see on the Third Street corridor. Because the backside of that lot then is light industrial.
Well, that would be that lot bounded by Second, Third, Maple and Linden is
That's
what you're
correct.
talking
That's
about, that
correct.
little square there.
So that also throws a little, kind of wrench into it as to adding that into the group, which makes sense that it's into the group, but
Yeah,
I'm not sure that's what planning wants to see.
Mhm.
so that is zone, you're talking about the one that has the wall and then the
Yeah,
building,
this-
you see the roof from it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
That
One kind of
is
catty corner.
light industrial now, zone light industrial now, and is
Do they
proposed to
actually
be
use
in
that now?
industrial
No.
district.
I didn't think they'd
I don't
use it
think
for
there's
years.
even
So I
any
don't know if it would
parking
change
in
it,
there.
but
I don't.
So,
It needs to be
Anything.
commercial. I thought that was something we talked about for a
and it
while.
could, I just know that there's been past acres in that lot. It's a very large area. I can see it as I just envision it as more mixed use. So more commercial or light industrial facing Colonial Metals and then residential facing Third Street. At least.
For your desk.
No, we
whether or not a
never,
developer would do
we
that.
never
Yes,
did
that's what I was
any, we
looking
never
for.
did anything with that.
That's exactly what I was looking for, Mary.
Yeah.
It's in here.
Does the entrance of where, whatever happens to that, will that dictate the zoning? If an entrance
Right.
comes in off Third Street, will that dictate?
That would be tough to do, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm just saying because maybe it'll open up other doors for people that might want to invest in it, as opposed to coming in from
that's
Maple
very-
Street
parking
or
lot.
Second Street.
Yeah.
That's very true. It was just, I think from a planning aspect, you're gonna wanna plan on what you wanna see in there. And then, if they wanna do something different,
I'm just saying, coming in from
from Route 30.
Route 30 coming down here, that would be catching your eye as opposed to coming down there on Second Street. People might reconsider.
That was my intention, was to have, some, where you see the top of the roof?
Right,
Yeah.
right. Mhm.
If you had that level there facing Colonial Metals and had some sort of light commercial industrial or something on that level, and then above that, which would be at the street level of Third Street, facing Third Street as residential, it would all.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
It would all fit.
Mhm.
And
Can you do an apartment complex above commercial?
sure,
How many stories can you go up?
depends on the regulations of the borough, but you can certainly go 3.
At least 3. I'm just saying, everybody's looking at housing
Mhm.
and multi-use buildings.
Well, that was kind of my point to bringing this up, because I don't think we want to limit it by saying industrial.
And maybe it's
Because
not
industrial-
marketed,
Industrial is going to keep your residential out.
maybe it's not being marketed accurately because, that could all be turned into off-street parking, kind of like what being done down here at the end of Locust Street
Right.
with the off-street parking, the condos the hotel going up and that. So why couldn't something be done there depending on how attractively
Like
it's
the Third
marketed?
Street side is the
Yeah.
building and then the
Mhm.
back half is
Yeah,
parking.
and good parking and have your elevator or whatever.
Absolutely.
So what did I don't have a comprehensive plan with me, but does it talk about that area? It's gotta talk about that area.
Well, that to me.
I mean, the future land
The
use map
Third
shows it
Street
as
gateway.
industrial,
Yeah,
but
that's what it
yeah.
was. I was always calling
Yeah.
it Third Street corridor, but Mary's right. It was the Third Street gateway. So
Mhm.
when you-
Right.
Right.
So you're gonna wanna get off Route 30, come down through there and see homes.
For sure,
See,
yeah.
Attractive
towns,
homes.
Absolutely.
Or even like stores or something too.
Or, yeah.
Even that.
Either one.
Same thing.
Whatever works, whatever
Right,
somebody wants
exactly.
to take a shot on, would be good through
But I was
there.
just kind of throwing that out there. If we're gonna combine those areas, we might wanna look and see what we can do to get creative at that spot.
So is it another footnote?
That could be easily done as well. Yeah. We want to encourage people to come in, but we certainly need.
It's been an eyesore for a long
Oh, yeah.
time.
Absolutely.
I used to live across the street from it, so I know. Just saying. Looked at the roof my whole life. Almost my whole life.
Does anybody
My
have
younger
any relationship or any with the people that own it, with the company? Like, does anybody
So-
know who runs it now? Like when it was Colonial Metals, it was a little different, you know, we could get in there and talk to
Mhm.
the
Right, I don't
people
know, I
that
don't
own it.
know the gentleman personally, but he's been trying to lease it for quite some time.
Yeah.
I did speak to the redevelopment authority to see if they were interested in it, because that would be another housing issue. So
Right.
it would
Yeah.
be those kind of things. Justin did say he had some interest in it. Again, it's whether or
What's
not they're
this-
willing to follow
What's
that,
the
which is
size
that.
of it? What's the square footage size of it? Do you know?
It's pretty much a whole.
Yeah.
It's a whole block.
That's a block.
It's a whole block.
So, I mean, it can be designed, as a developer, kind of sky's the limit as far as the lot size, anyway. But what's more important, is it more important to have the industrial stuff there or the residential stuff? Yeah.
I mean, I think based on, you know, a lot of the conversation for a whole bunch of years, you know, the idea of having that is more, again, gateway friendly if it's not, you know, an overly valuable, and you hate to say not a valuable industrial piece of property because the county is short on
Right.
industrial property, but it's short on industrial property where businesses can kind of grow. And,
Right.
you know, how is that big enough to really do anything? And that might come down to what kind of responses they've had for leasing it from other companies for industrial type.
I've always had that in the back of
business.
my head as a push. I think
Yeah.
we can get something done there. I mean, it's huge, for a square block. And they also have two other properties directly across the street that are also for lease. One's that corner, I don't know.
Used to be a
if it's
store.
Store.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then they have the bigger building with the parking lot on the side, that's also down there.
Right.
So I mean, for a developer, it's a pretty nice spot, right off of Route 30, all that kind of thing, so.
So looking at the future land use map, do you expand the downtown mixed use into that block?
I would
Look at it. It, on two sides, it's downtown mixed use.
So personally, I love
Or is
that
it
idea because. I think
Gateway?
that's-
Is it gateway
I
commercial?
think so,
It's gateway commercial.
yeah. Sorry, the darker red, like the maroon.
Yeah, it is the dark.
Yeah.
So that's the block. That's all gateway there, as is like where the antique
Right.
The antique's the
places.
red here,
Yeah.
and this purple is the,
Our print offs, yours
the-
is a lot more bold colors
The
than
high
mine.
density.
Yeah. The brown.
Hmm.
So, yeah, that's the block. Right. I mean, it would be good to know from a market perspective, like, is it worth more as this
Those,
general industrial zone land of a certain size, like of that size, not if it was
Right.
20 acres, well, yeah, industrial would be
does
worth a heck
anybody
of a
know a
lot.
realtor?
oh my God, I don't know any.
So that versus like a mixed use resident retail slash.
Just saying, what's the greatest need here in
Residential.
town? Is it
Yeah.
for apartments for seniors? How full is St. Peter's and, there's two. How full, and what's the length of the waiting list?
Well, I mean, to my understanding, they've always been full.
Well, I'm just saying, but I want to know, is there a 3-year waiting list?
Sure, but is that really what?
Is that what we want? I don't know, but I'm just saying.
I mean, my personal opinion is we certainly don't want that there.
No.
Okay? Only because we are looking at that as the Route 30 get off the 3rd Street corridor. That's my opinion. I'm not saying we don't have a lot of land
Right,
to
exactly.
deal with.
Now, the gateway, getting back to our little combination here. Future land use incorporates the area, this is gateway commercial. previously zoned downtown commercial, highway commercial, and light industrial. Well, that was
So it doesn't have
previously,
anything residential in there.
that was previously light industrial.
Mhm.
Which one? Oh,
The block. But
Yeah.
our thing is, a gateway commercial, we would have to define what a gateway commercial district is.
Right.
Because we do not have anything
yeah,
currently
it's
that
basically
would even
highway.
be a
right?
pick and choose. It's basically highway.
Yeah, right now, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's the highway.
And will they need a
It's
special exception if something comes in here and
See, to me, it depends on what you zone it at. I mean, if
Right.
you did a, mixed use, now you're at least opening things up for potentially anything. Which is what I think they're looking to do. But,
and do you stop it at that block?
well, I think that's all the things that you need to look at.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
because across the street, aren't those two also being leased out across of Linden Street?
Trying to picture. which
The one there in
ones
the
they are.
corner, the cafe, that the restaurant that used to be there in the corner there across from
Hmm.
Turkey Hill? Isn't
Right.
that leased out? Isn't that for lease now?
The East
It
End.
it is.
Well, they had offices in there. didn't they?
I don't ever remember anything being in there.
Well, my mom
Right.
used to work, when she came into town, she worked in there at the restaurant. It was a
Mhm.
restaurant.
There
It
was a
Bauman's.
restaurant
It
there.
was Bauman's, so
Mhm.
I just know that. But it hasn't been that since I don't remember it that.
So you're making.
I remember it as the bus stop. That was as far as the bus went. So I think what we do is listen to what Derek has to say.
Yeah, and see if that's two
About
different, if
this-
it's two projects or one project, but,
Mhm.
Well, the apartments across the street, Rook's apartment, they're
Right.
very nice apartments.
Mhm.
So it would be a nice complement to that. Going down on Maple Street, some of them don't take care of them as well, but everybody on Third Street has been
Mhm.
upgrading their houses. So
Mhm.
they're all taken care of, but I'm just saying,
Well, I like the lot in there because depending on what you do, you can do all that towards Third Street, which would make Third Street.
yes,
Plus you have plenty of spots for parking
in the back,
towards the Colonial
Mhm.
Meadows.
yes.
So,
Yeah, all bad is
And you can
proposed to
do
be
landscaping and all that kind of
gateway.
green
Right.
area back in there would be nice.
Mhm.
And you can also, if they have that, maybe there's storage units down further on Second Street. I don't know if you,
So if you're
It's
going,
another
well, I
part.
mean, if you're gonna combine the light industrial, I think that's what your target should be as far as,
Right.
the first go around.
Mhm.
We can just isolate that part because we're not gonna put it in light industrial and then deal with that when we come around to reducing them down to 7.
Mhm.
You don't necessarily have to change what it's 7 at this point.
I think mixed use is a
What would it
great
do?
idea.
Will it
Mhm.
just become a different district, or is it,
Well, currently,
will we have to create a?
currently you would just leave it to where it's at.
Well, there's TIF.
Um, You know what I'm saying, rather than changing all the text and everything for that particular spot. Again, I don't know what's included in doing that.
Yeah, you'd have to, I guess if the idea was it's all gonna become, if light business, light industrial, and general industrial are gonna merge, it's gonna become a new district.
Mhm.
So you're kind of starting from
I
scratch.
got you. So,
But my guess is it's probably gonna make sense to just pass the amendments so that McGinnis can go forward. Because I think what we'll end up doing is we'll get down, we'll find that you're going down a rabbit hole a little bit. And it's like, oh, now, okay, so here's these other things if we combine them.
Dude,
How are we gonna deal with the adult
45
use?
Minutes in, we're already down around.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
I agree.
it'll take a while.
I agree. So there's one other thing I'd like to throw out that Derek and the people with McGinnis, when we were having our meetings, they requested some text amendments, which I talked to you about. They also requested a point person for zoning. So I'm looking to have,
What do they mean by that?
so that way we have somebody here that can work with us for the text amendments, work with you guys.
Oh,
what
okay.
we need to do. So, Alex will cut to all of them, but we're gonna end up using Jessica as the point person. So that way, we make sure what we're doing is the way we need to do it, based off of what you guys are saying. That's at least what the recommendation was. I think that's what Derek's going to discuss.
So we should just pretend like we don't know anything about
No,
this.
not at all. No, not at all. Not at
That's a
all.
great idea, Derek.
So we just had a few discussions. We just want to make sure that we are not spinning our wheels as far as whatever's involved in the text amendments portion of it.
Yeah.
Go with what we guys need to. Because we are on that April 1st is coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
April
is.
Fools. Yeah, well, I guess it'll just depend on how in-depth the stuff he has is.
Right.
If it's all text things, then it's probably makes sense to just send it right through.
Mhm. Instead of looking at the combination.
Yeah.
At this point.
I think there'd just be enough complications with it to where it
Mhm.
needs to be thought out. And you don't want to do the wrong thing, and it'll just take longer than what the borough needs to make it happen.
Do we have more on this agenda here? 'Cause I do have something I'd like to bring up to you guys.
Well, I think one of the things that we were looking at was, we're really getting into this zoning
Mhm.
and the map and that.
Yeah.
But one of the other things that was commented to me was about setting long-term goals for planning as to what we're going to work on, like the official map got lost during COVID. We were getting ready to work on that. I had somebody approach me about working on the housing element of the comp plan, that they felt that that would be a goal for us to work on. So that was the only thing with this long-term planning goals. But I really think once we get our act together with this, we've really got to get back to that official map. Because the things that are now on the official map, 441, that was on the official map.
It was
It's done.
dashed. It was a dashed line.
Yeah,
It's gonna
So,
get done.
you know, there's some other things that need to be done, that need to be presented. So that would be.
If you do that map, you find more land.
Yeah. You can't create land. Yes, Steve, what did you have?
So Mary, I have the preliminary final land development plans from Don.
Which we're going to discuss at our regular
Is
meeting.
that what it is?
Yes,
Okay.
that's on the regular
Awesome.
agenda.
I was looking at
We-
the agenda.
Alex and I had discussion Friday after they delivered the packets, and we found out that they were being dropped off, so he actually got new agendas, new packets out to all of us over the weekend. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I went to the same day on Friday.
Yes, you did. You
The mad
did.
dash
Yes,
before the
mad
weekend.
dash.
Delivered the first time by me, the second time by Matt, so.
Ah.
Split it a little bit.
Okay.
Awesome, man.
Well, at least two of us are across the street.
Oh, I'm not far, I'm around the block.
Yeah, you're around the block. Okay, I think we do need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Oh.
Do I have a
So moved.
motion?
There you go.
Second? You?
Second,
Okay. All in favor?
aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 6:48. And our next meeting at this point